Hey everyone, and welcome to the 25th episode of Clean My Space Live. I am Melissa Maker, your host from Clean My Space, and I'm really excited. I'm in such a good mood today because I'm bringing on a cleaning friend and a friend, someone who I met doing all this online stuff, but someone who is a friend and absolutely hilarious and smart and awesome in all the ways. So, without further ado, I'd love to introduce all of you to my friend Melissa Pateras. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You
It
sound thrilled.
I'm super thrilled,
Hello.
and I'm
Thanks
always
for
happy to
having
talk
me.
about I like to
I
talk
do.
about cleaning. Once I start,
Yeah,
I don't stop. We've done a
it's true. You
panel
know what?
together.
Yeah. You're like the Energizer bunny of talking
Mm,
about cleaning. It's true.
yeah,
You just have to wind you up a little bit and then let you go and you're like tick, 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 tick.
yeah. It takes
There
me a
there
minute
you
to
are.
get I
Yeah.
need to get primed, and then I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll start with some easy questions.
Okay.
So yes, in the audience, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We have so much to cover. I have a little bit of housekeeping, but I will get to that after Melissa does her own intro. Because this is my thing. Like, why should I introduce you when like you know you and your story best and you can control the narrative? I feel like that's probably the best way to go. So
Alright.
go ahead, let everyone know who you are, where you're from, what your story is, and what makes you a laundry expert.
I'm Canadian, and, I started online about 4 years ago, and laundry and cleaning just kinda came out of nowhere. I started doing comedy stuff, and cleaning and laundry was always sort of a secret, that very few
A secret
people.
passion of yours.
Yeah, and, I always thought it was super weird, so it was just I finally found an avenue that I could, be weird in public, so that's how I started. I have 3 kids, and I live in a small town in Ontario, Canada, and yeah, I like cleaning and I like laundry.
And you have 2 dogs. I think that's
I
important for
do.
people to know as well.
I
Yeah,
do
because
have
like
2 dogs, Barb and Judy.
yeah, and you know what's good about having dogs in the cleaning space is it's like extra problems that you encounter, so you can talk about it more, with your audience, and I know we have had conversations about Barb and Judy, and I have met both Barb and Judy.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and, they
They're
are lovely
rascals.
animals, but I know they've given you some trouble.
Yeah, they're rascals. It's been a while since I've had pets, all over the
Yeah.
house. It's like toddlers. You can't have anything nice, you know? So, it's that.
Although your house is nice. Your house is nice.
It's getting there.
And you also do renos. Like, I think
Mhm.
what's nice about your channel is that or your account, I always say channel because 'cause I'm like YouTube first,
Yeah.
it's just the way I roll. But what's nice about your account is that you do cleaning, you do laundry, you do organizing, you do some funny stuff, and then, of course, you do, some reno work as well, and, like,
Yeah.
those are some of my favorite videos that you do. I love seeing the transformations, and I have asked you offline before if you would help me do some
Yeah,
stuff in my house.
and it's funny because I do get a lot of requests to do renos, and usually I would help out family, whatever, but when I'm not busy, I'm happy to help. I mean, those
Yeah,
videos are
okay.
funny, right? Because they are
Yeah.
like a 2 or 3-minute video, and, it's hard to understand that it's like, 2 or 3-week
Days or
project.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just sort of
yeah.
condensed, but yeah.
Well, I'm really happy that you offered now, in public, and we have
Mhm,
video
proof.
record of that. Yeah, that's so good. That's really good for
Yeah.
me. So, we have lots of people who are joining us. Thanks so much for letting us know where you're joining from. Melissa Pateras is really like she knows her thing with laundry. She knows her things with laundry. We've both we're both part of the laundry league, which is something that we do with Procter and Gamble, and we have been extremely educated about laundry and science and all of the things to do with laundry. But Melissa is really nerdy about laundry, so much so that she like buys antique laundry products. So we can kind of talk about that.
Yeah.
But please, any laundry stain challenges that you are having, you can drop those in the comments and we will have a look at those. And then you can also say, hey, this question's for Melissa P, or this question's for Melissa M, or I don't care what Melissa answers it. Just get me a Melissa. So yeah, we can do that. Anyway, before we get into the Q&As, I just wanted to mention that our sister company Makers Clean is having a Memorial Day sale for all of our friends who are in the States. Melissa and I, just had our holiday weekend this past Monday. It's called Victoria Day, celebrating, Melissa, over to you. Queen Queen Victoria? Queen Victoria? Is it
Yes,
Queen Victoria?
I think
Okay,
it
great.
is. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm
Okay,
pretty
great.
sure. Oh, that's yeah.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're
Great.
celebrating Queen Victoria, because we're Canadian. So yep. Anyway, we had a great long weekend. The weather was beautiful, and I hope for all of our friends in the States, they are going to have the same experience. And at Makers Clean, makersclean.com, makersclean.ca, you can find the link down below. If you spend $50 in the store, you will get a free 5-pack of Makers minis. So go and check that out.
I
By the
love
way,
your microfibers. I love them. I've
oh,
told you a million times, but,
you have.
they're amazing. They, don't feel yucky on my hands, and they're dense, and they're great. I love them.
Thank
I love
you.
them.
Thanks for the
Yes.
compliment. That means a
Okay.
lot. Truly, I appreciate that. So yeah, you can see what we have at makersclean.com. Melissa, where can people find you? And tell us about that paper baby you had earlier this year, or late last year, I should say.
I I Melissa Dilks Pateras. It's kind of a long story, and I think it's on the screen.
Yeah,
So that is my at for Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I was named the laundry lesbian by TikTok people. I did not take that name on myself. And yeah, I put out a book November.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then like when you've done like your big US TV work, they're
Yeah.
like, the laundry lesbian is here.
Yeah.
Like that's how they name you. And you're
I
like,
know, actually, I think is it on yeah, it is on the front of my book, and, we did go back and forth a bit, and I was like, "I didn't pick that name," like, my followers chose that, so, yeah, it is actually the laundry lesbian is on the front of my book, so,
yeah.
yeah, so back in November, I released my book on cleaning and DIY and laundry, and it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, and
It's fun to
Lori,
see it. No, I
it's
was
fun
just
to
gonna say
deliver your paper baby.
yeah, and it's fun to see it when you're out and about,
Out
at
and about.
stores. At
Yeah,
stores, and when, people buy it and message you and send you pictures, of it in different places, it's really cool. It was a lot of
um,
work.
I know, I know. I remember we talked about it, and I told
Yeah.
you it is quite literally like delivering a paper baby, which is what I call a book. It is so much labor and so much,
I
just
think it was more than my actual labor with my children.
gestation period. Oh my god. Like, but I'm just gonna say, like, it takes months and months. It's like a
Mhm.
9-month, sometimes a 12-month process, and there's just tons of work. Um,
Yeah. Mine was
and
2
then
and
you
a half
did,
years.
yeah. Yeah, I know.
Oh, it's a
It
lot.
it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. But the book is great,
Thanks.
and the book launch party was really fun.
Yeah, I'm glad
Um,
you could make it to the party. We did a folding demonstration, a little Q&A,
mhm.
and we had some pretty yummy
Mhm.
cookies, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Lori from Now It's Clean, Lori and I went over and, went to the book launch party, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great event. You packed that space back there. People were very excited to see you, so that it's always
That's
so
great.
exciting and, like, fun when, you see that kinda thing.
Yeah, it was fun.
And then so, okay, so wait, at Melissa Dilks Pateras, that's where people can find you on
Mhm.
TikTok, Instagram,
And Facebook.
and Facebook, but you don't have a
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
I don't well, okay, I don't. I'll just say I don't. I do, but it's like
Okay.
3 old videos, that, for some reason, I get followers every once in a while and comments, but they're just really old videos from maybe 2020.
Got
Um,
it.
yeah, so it's not a real thing. I should get on board with YouTube, but
Yeah, I mean, listen, we like it here. So at some point, you can think on that one. I'll also say here at Clean My Space, we have like a membership program that's available on YouTube. Um, it's not that you won't get access to anything that we already offer for free. It's just like a nice way to show your support or thank the channel for what we do. Danielle Joyner joined, so I just wanted to say thank you, Danielle. And then also, if you feel like it, you can offer up a super chat or a sticker that's available on YouTube. That's just a little something that I always like to mention real quick. So, Melissa, you and
Mm.
we have a lot of nerdy laundry information.
Yeah, we
Um, we do. And I'm just looking at some of the comments that are coming in. So, Lisa Steffen says, I love you both. I'm from Ohio, USA.
oh,
Thank you, Lisa. And then I want to start off with a question from Libby. So Libby asks, washing towels with sheets, is that all right? I have a load and go whirlpool. So what do you think about that?
well, I am a huge advocate of never washing anything with my sheets because I think that's the biggest problem, right? They all get twisted around. The sheets, they come out in a knot. It's so I don't recommend washing your sheets with anything. I always wash my sheets alone, and then of course, even before they go into the dryer, it's a process of shaking everything out, trying to get it as separated as possible so that the corners aren't matted and there's a bunch of socks in the corner and with your dryer balls, some underwear, a couple of tea towels. It's just not yeah, so I don't recommend that. And then, if you're a person who does laundry in terms of weight, they don't necessarily match weight-wise, so your towels are gonna be soaked and your sheets are gonna be dry first. So no, I don't recommend that. How about
Yeah.
you, Melissa Maker?
Yeah, I'm actually the same, Melissa Dilks Pateras. I'm the same. I actually find it very annoying to wash sheets because you have to pull it out, as you say, and like separate everything. That's like when you have to be very diligent. So I find that very annoying. And I find the fitted
Mhm.
sheet like, I'm not a fan of disposables, but if there could be a disposable sheet,
I
a
know, I
disposable
hear
fitted
you.
sheet, I would love it.
I know,
In
and
fact,
I
in some
get
hotels, I feel like they just use flat sheets and they just do like a big old
yeah,
hospital corner
they
so
do,
that
and
they can avoid it.
I think they stopped using a lot of fitted sheets, and plus, they use the flat sheet, the duvet, and then another flat sheet and fold them
Yeah,
together, so I think that makes it
yeah.
easier for them. Yeah, I hate the duvet cover more than the sheets, but
Oh, yeah. You know what? You're so
yeah,
right.
like, I think that's the one of
Worst.
I get that a lot. That's one of the biggest questions is how do I wash my sheets without getting them tangled? And there really isn't any way other than wash them
Yeah,
separate and
and then
shake them
just shake them
before the
out before
dryer.
they go to the dryer.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's what I do, and I totally agree with not mixing the fabric weights,
Mhm.
not only because of the different dry times, but also because of any pilling that could happen on the sheets from the weight of the towels.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, yeah.
I use Maker's clean towels now, waffle weave. They're so much lighter, they dry faster.
I bought something similar for my son for when he went away to university, so, yeah, they just and it's not the fluffy and
Yeah,
you know, all the lint.
yeah, yeah. And of course, Maker's clean towels feel great on the skin. Anyway, I'll stop bragging. Okay. Here is another question from Libby. Oh,
Mhm.
this is a good one. Sometimes I wash my rugs in my washing machine. Am I wrecking my washer? Have you ever tried like a ruggable product or any of those
No,
washable rugs?
you know what my issue is? I want a ruggable more than anything, but I need a square rug, a perfectly square rug, and they don't sell square, so I don't have a ruggable. But if we talk about I think what Libby's probably talking about is, weight, and most washing machines are somewhere around the 15 to 20-pound mark, so, like, if you've got a weighted blanket, if you've got something that's above that weight, you should take it to sort of, the laundromat where they have
Mm,
large capacity machines that can
industrial.
yeah, that can, like horse blankets, things that are super heavy.
Oh,
So
yes. Like my horse blanket collection. Yes. Good
yeah,
to know.
yeah, like,
Mhm.
at my laundry, that's what they advertise.
Oh, I guess that's true
Horse
because you
blanket
sort of live in the
machines.
country. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense now.
the 6 or $7 load, because it's a larger machine. So, you could wash a ruggable, it's not gonna wreck your machine as long as it's not super, super heavy, and at the same time, you have to take into consideration the size of your machine, because you always wanna make sure that there's enough room for anything that's in it to move around and that the detergent and the water is going to be easily able to freely move in between all of the
Mm,
folds in the fabric to make sure it's clean. So, the answer is it depends on what size it is, I think is my answer.
yeah, yeah, okay, good. That's a great answer. I haven't tried Ruggable only because I have felt uncertain with how easy they are to wash. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's always been sort of been a something I've been going back and forth on. Anyway, that's
Yeah,
neither
but
here nor there.
they know that I am interested, so every other
Yeah.
ad is Ruggable now, and
Mhm.
I am tempted on the bath mat, but yeah, I just have a super weird, hair phobia, and so I have to use a
Oh, say
new.
more about your hair phobia.
Yeah, I have,
Tell us.
it's really bad actually, so I need a new floor towel, so I use the hotel floor towels, and I use a new one. I could never use a bath
Mhm.
mat that somebody else
Right.
stepped on, so yeah,
Mm.
I don't like hair, especially wet hair, and I don't want it anywhere near me, so but the ruggable one looks really pretty. And actually, our friend
Okay.
Lori was telling me about a bath stone that she's got, and
A bath
interesting.
stone?
Yeah, where you step
Okay.
onto it. I'm gonna get one for my kitchen. It's an absorber. I'm gonna get one for my kitchen because they come small, and I think, where you get that puddle behind your sink?
Yes.
And so you put your stuff on there and it absorbs it. It I guess, slowly evaporates, so it seems
Oh.
amazing, but she's using a
Oh.
large one for a bath mat, and I think it's great, except for me, I can't, I need fresh every day with no hair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Or
yeah.
else, like, how could you live? Yes,
No, I couldn't.
totally.
That's the end.
Oh my god, I learned something new about you today.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Bell Riot. How do I get soap suds out of my towels? I use 2 tablespoons of laundry detergent, but it takes almost the entire day to remove it. Or I would rinse it with water before using laundry detergent, but it's still so soapy. When I add very little laundry detergent, it's not as soapy until it's on a rinse cycle. They're 100% cotton, and I have a top load washer.
Yeah, I would think that there's gotta be some sort of buildup, and
Mm,
I'm not trying to promote products, but rinse and refresh is
yeah.
a flipping game changer, and the
Mhm.
Tide Boost is the same thing, it's the same product, um, I'm just gonna say they have different labels, but they're exactly the same formula.
Yes, yes, they are.
Um, but sure, like we used to strip or whatever, and you could certainly do that. I'm wondering if before you started using the 2 tablespoons, if there's some sort of buildup, that it's just not, able to fully rinse
To
because
release.
yeah, because you shouldn't have with 2 tablespoons, you shouldn't have any buildup. Um, but, you might need a rinse and refresh, a few cycles with a product like that, and then, with a maybe an extra rinse at the end, and then start from fresh, I think would be my suggestion. And I don't know if at
Yeah.
any point you used, fabric softener, because sometimes that can add to the buildup.
Yep.
And, just make sure that you're hanging your towels after you use them and that you're cleaning them regularly every, 4 to 7 days depending, and it should be okay, but sometimes that rinse and refresh comes in handy for stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's one of the only things other than stripping with borax and all of that, that you're gonna get that residue that's just hanging on for dear life.
Yeah. And it helps to eliminate odors as well. Like, I know it's funny because a
Mm.
lot of us in the laundry league, we talk about rinse and refresh like it's a holy grail product, but I
Yeah.
have to say it is a holy grail laundry product. Like, yeah, it is a total game changer.
It's totally
Um,
crazy, and when we were at P&G, Melissa, I think you had left, and, Zach and I were just standing waiting for our Uber to leave
Zach from
P&G.
Jeeves, New York, who's been on this live before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he, well, we love Zach, but anyways,
we
side
love
that's
Zach.
just a side note, but Zach
Yeah.
and I were just standing there chatting, and the man who, came up with Rinse and Refresh came out and started
No, Lori,
chatting with us.
I'm sorry, Melissa, I
Were
was
you
there.
there?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I
was
thought you and
there.
Lori left ahead of us, and it was
No.
totally cool. He's like a single dad of 4 girls, I think,
Yes, yes, yes.
and he came up with it because his daughter's shin guards were so stinky, which I thought was pretty cool, and it was cool to be able to meet him, but and to tell him that it's a great product. It's not one of those, 50 million products out there that, half the people don't know how to use them and what they're for. It's good. It's great. I
And
don't
it's
even do a load.
and
Well,
it's
we
simple.
don't do a load without it now, right? I mean,
Yeah, so
really,
we have like an auto dose on our
yeah, so
machine
do
and
I.
I just yeah, I put it in the fabric softener compartment, which is where it goes and like it just goes in every cycle. It's not an option. Like I won't do a load without it now. It's the only
No,
difference
I
is am I
love it.
using a scented one? Am I using unscented? Because they send us a lot of products, so I go through it. My preference is always unscented, as you know, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
I'm the
I'll just use
opposite.
whatever. I know
Yeah,
you are. You're all the scent and the beads and the schmeeds and everything. Like you're
yeah.
really crazy. Yeah, you're
But I
crazy.
like it because it also we if we can get people using it, they can't use fabric softener, so I love it, right? Because it goes into the fabric softener compartment, so then you can't use
It's so
fabric
true.
softener, which,
You got
we don't really
and
recommend.
neither of us are fans of fabric softener. I mean, I would love to see no more fabric softener on the shelf and just all
Mhm.
rinse. I feel like it's very confusing for people when they're like, "Do I use dryer sheets? Do I use rinse? Do I use fabric softener? What do I use?" And for
Yeah.
me, like the simplest laundry routine or regimen is just detergent, rinse and refresh, done,
Yeah, and
done.
I just add the beads, that's it. I think a lot of people think it's this big complicated thing and we use 50,000 products. Of course, I have borax on hand and washing soda because if I've got
Mhm.
something that's like super, super soiled, I'll add that in. But otherwise, you don't need a lot of stuff. Plus, yeah,
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't realize that if you use liquid detergent, half the like 90% of the time, you don't need a stain remover. You just put the liquid detergent on the stain.
yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
so powerful.
Mhm.
Um, there we go, nerding out on laundry, just as promised. Um, Marjorie Brody said, I'm so excited I found Melissa too. I spent years restoring antique slash vintage textiles, so laundry is my jam. Thank you. That's
Yes.
very kind. Jazz Aquino says, how do you keep white baseball pants white with red dirt and grass stains?
You know
Over to
what's
you,
funny?
Melissa Pateras.
What's totally funny is I get that question so much. I get people private, like, DMing me about that question, and I get emails about it. And, what I always say is, I think there's some
Don't play
confusion.
baseball.
Yeah, quit, all sports. No, don't use chlorine bleach, number 1. So, number 2,
Wouldn't
then
it
we
break down the material of the pants,
it yellows
the
them,
baseball pants?
and,
Yeah.
when you're playing ball, like, the idea is that it's supposed to be bright and white, and every time you get onto the field, there's you're supposed to look like they're brand new, it's a new
Mhm.
uniform like the majors. So, but when we're talking about a stain like that, we need to we need to color correct. I think that's why you say it's red, right? So we don't just wanna fade it, we wanna completely get rid of it, and so we switch to oxygenated bleach, which is gonna keep your whites whiter, but I think a lot of people don't realize that oxygenated bleach doesn't work in cold water. It primarily works in hot water. So you're gonna have to have hot water and an oxy soak. And sometimes I've done oxy soaks overnight.
Yeah.
Then I wash it with a quality detergent because you gotta have like a Tide Persil type detergent. You have to have
Yeah, like a premium product. You can't
100%.
use basic stuff
No,
because they don't have the because they do and
they
this
don't
is
have the
this is
same
what we always try to
ingredients.
say. They don't have the same ingredients.
No.
They don't have the same surfactants. They don't have the same cheilants. They don't have the same stain fighting
Enzymes.
capabilities. Like, they just can't do what they need to do.
Enzymes are a big one. I think I just did a video about enzymes because I think, the more enzymes it has because each enzyme will attack a certain kind of stain or a type of
Yeah.
stain, and so if it's only got one enzyme, like, say, FOCA, it's not gonna deal with all of your stuff, and you're gonna say, "Oh, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't," and that comes down to detergents, but, in terms of the baseball pants, what you can use is, again, I think a lot of people don't know that hydrogen peroxide is liquid oxygenated bleach, so, it's really cheap, and you can get it sort of at the dollar store, and it's in that brown bottle, and if the stain doesn't come out after you've done the wash with the baseball pants, you can just apply it directly and let it sit. And then I just sometimes I use that on my shower curtain because I have a white shower curtain and sometimes it gets, like, yellow and
Or
nasty on
pink?
the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah, sometimes pink too, yep.
mhm, mhm.
And sometimes just that yellow whatever, and so I'll just, put it out on my deck over the railing and spray it with hydrogen peroxide, walk away, and then keep coming back and checking to see as it fades. So that's the best thing that I have found for baseball pants because we're color correcting that dye, that red, which is way worse than the grass because the grass I feel like is easier to get out than that red, clay. So
Yeah.
that's my suggestion. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
a
that's a great
process.
no, it's a great suggestion. I mean, I will say, like, I favor mine more because why even get involved in the mess? But it's fine. If you're gonna play baseball, I mean, I think you did answer the question sufficiently.
Yeah, and
Um,
I played baseball, and I just recently threw out all my trophies, because my kids were tired of me bragging about them. Because to punish them every once in a while, I'd bring up the, trophy box, but anyways, I finally just threw them out, but
mm,
I played ball for many, many years.
and you play basketball now?
Yeah, I do. Well, I hurt
Yeah.
my shoulder, so I took a year off, but I'm gonna try to go back
Mm,
to it, yeah.
yeah, sporty. I like it. Okay. Cute Kitten 12 says, "What about eco-friendly brands or the True Earth laundry sheets?" Melissa Pateras.
Okay. Nobody wants the laundry sheets to work more than I do, um, but they don't work, and I have tested all of the sheets that I can get my hands on here in Canada. I've ordered them from the US, I've done everything I can. Not one single brand of laundry sheets works any better than water. So, for
Yeah.
starters, if you just wash your laundry in plain water and never use any detergent, it will get rid of 50% of the soil, dirt, stains because that's what water does.
And we
Um,
tested this in the laboratory.
we did. We've tested it so many times. I mean, between that and the homemade detergent. So the sheets just don't work.
Mm.
They unfortunately don't work. I just don't think the technology is there. I think the thought is there and it's amazing and it's great and it's how convenient and lightweight, but they just don't clean your clothes. And funny, sometimes it's less than 50% with those sheets. Like I don't know how they can possibly perform worse than water, but they do. Um so, yeah, they're no good. But in terms of, I guess it depends on what you're looking for because people throw around words like toxic and eco-friendly a lot. So it depends on what exactly you're looking for because, something we talked about recently was that, everything is toxic depending on the
In
amount.
the wrong amount. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be toxic if it's too little or too much. So me personally, I really like Nelly's, in terms of a simple detergent. It's got 4 ingredients, and I really love
Mhm.
the tins because you can reuse them. Never mind recycling, they're the absolute cutest, packaging that you can reuse. I reuse my dryer ball. It's a piggy bank after. It's amazing. Um, but you know, you have to it depends on what your purpose is. Is it stains? Is it whitening? Is it brightening? Is it environmental in terms of packaging or in our waterways? I mean, there's so many things, but I think for me is Nelly's. That's my top.
So another interesting thing that I wanna bring up, and I think it's a point that's worth reviewing when we talk about eco-friendly in the
Mhm,
laundry world. Um, so we have both been educated and taught, how to read ingredients and where we can learn more. So,
mhm,
there's the Smart Label program, there's
mhm,
the EPA Safer Choice program. Just again, using P&G as an example, like they disclose their ingredients on their website.
mhm.
So if there are any concerns, you can check and see, what they have
Well, and
in
that's
the
just it,
product.
and what's what's in any detergent is a safe amount, or it
That's right.
wouldn't go to market. So I
That's
think it's
right.
always important to understand that, certain things may appear to be toxic, or you've heard people online talking about this as toxic, but there's a safe amount, right? It's like a medication, there's a safe amount of this certain, ingredient in this medication, and then there's a toxic amount because it's too much. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we're watching people online who are driving their own agenda, which is maybe health and wellness and their own something,
Or they do it
you
for
know?
clicks,
Yeah,
right?
100%. I
Like, they'll say something for clicks, and
yeah,
it's just not true, and we know it's not true because we've actually studied this, like, we've
it's
learned about it, and
it's so
it's
frustrating, Melissa, I spent my entire morning, because I get so aggravated at the homemade detergents, because they're not good for your machine, and then you know, people are like, "Oh, it's the best non-toxic," but then they're going and they're buying a whole bunch of store products and
right,
mixing them together, and I think, "Wow, the scientists who have spent 100 years and,
and billions of dollars.
billions of dollars in research, hundreds of
Yeah,
thousands on their education, are they laughing or are they crying at these, mixtures from just regular people? And,
yeah,
I watched this woman who was making this homemade, and it was a lot of clicks, like you said. And, we're in Canada, and, like, I don't make money on TikTok. We don't have a creator fund, so it doesn't matter how many views I get. But, I get it. In the US, it matters. So people are putting these things out, but I actually don't believe they're using them because it's horrible for your machine, and in
yeah,
about 6 months, your clothes are gonna feel greasy because it
yeah,
just holds on to that, like we said, those towels, right? It holds on to
yeah,
that residue. And, I went back into this woman's page, and she was promoting another, laundry detergent time and time and time again, and I thought, "Oh, okay, so it's just for clicks because there's no way she's using it. Her
clearly.
machine would be so
Yeah,
plugged up, and our
yeah,
machines just aren't built for that sort of thing, and that's the thing. So, these hand soaps that everybody's buying, Zote and Fells and all of them, they're bars of soap that people are grinding up, and those are fine if you're doing a spot, like if you've got a stain and you wanna scrub at a stain, which, for the baseball pants, that's great. That's actually better than a brush because it's not gonna, tear or
wear the
anything.
fabric.
Yeah, so they're great, but they're not for going into your machine.
Yeah, and I'll also say, like, we did learn too that it is not eco-friendly to have, if we're talking about eco-friendly, to have an eco-friendly detergent, run a load of laundry, have your
Mhm.
laundry come out, be dissatisfied with the results, and then have to run another load of laundry. You're wasting water, you're
It's
wasting
crazy.
resources. Yeah.
It's crazy.
All
It's
right.
like anything. So the most sustainable laundry detergent is the one that works the first time. That's what
That's
Melissa's
exactly
talking about, right?
exactly the line. That's the
Yeah.
line, my friend.
You
Okay, here's a
see?
question from Rose. Is there a way to wash restroom mats? I throw mine in the washing machine with cold water and regular detergent, and then
Yeah.
I'll hang them to dry. That's what I do. What do you do?
What do you mean
Use
restroom
the
mat?
towel.
Like the floor
I'm
towel?
assuming, yeah, like I'm assuming like a mat that you would have in the
Oh,
bathroom, like
like
when you
a
step out of the shower,
right,
like
like
a
a
bathroom
shower
mat.
mat. Yeah, yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
before I
Yeah,
roll.
as long as it's not, but I mean, you can wash the rubber mat, so I don't know if they mean the bathtub one, but I'm assuming the one on the
Yeah.
floor. Yeah,
Okay.
you can wash it. You can wash in hot water, but you don't have to. Cold water, all detergent is formulated to work in cold water, so don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
We have to unlearn this boiling laundry business,
Yeah. Yeah.
because those
Totally.
bars of soap used to have you only worked with hot water, so that's where it's old school. We were going back way
Yeah, and
in
the technology has changed, like, even when we're in the lab and we're learning about detergents, like, they want no business with hot water. They want their products to work in cold water because it makes a significant difference, in terms of how much
in the
energy is being
environment.
used. It's a 90% difference there,
It's
in energy
huge.
use.
It's not even a
Here's a
matter of
question.
money savings, it's the environment.
It's the environment for sure. Okay, Melissa, this is a good one. It's about sunscreen.
Mhm.
It's from a fellow Melissa, Melissa Williams. I have a problem with getting, and this is very appropriate for the summer,
Mm.
with getting orange sunscreen stains off my white towels. Is it to my understanding that the sunscreen filters can react with the minerals in the water? And what is the best way to tackle this?
It's, Yeah, the sunscreen's brutal. It's orangey,
It's one of the
yellow.
worst stains.
Yeah, I mean, I do it with, like I said, oxygenated bleach because that's a color corrector and it's a stain. It's a colored stain.
Yeah,
But I would, because of any of the grease or the oil, I would sort of pre-treat that with some sort of a surfactant first, like
like liquid detergent or
yeah, like a
PRC
yeah, or
on.
even a Dawn power wash.
Yeah,
Um, and then again, you're back to the oxy because you have to color correct.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
do you agree with that, Melissa?
Yeah, I do, and I do think, Melissa's right in her analysis that the minerals in the sunscreen, they oxidize and yeah, it's just it's a messy stain. So,
Yeah.
I try I mean, you can only do so much. You must wear sunscreen, like, let's not even have that conversation. But
Mhm.
I try to apply sunscreen and let it dry before I get dressed. And then when I reapply, I just try to be as careful as possible. Um,
Well, the key
you
to
know,
any stain is to get at it as quickly as possible. So if,
yeah,
after your day out, you've got a stain, spray the power wash on it and let it sit. Like you can let power wash sit on your item for until you get to it. That's totally fine.
yeah.
So that's the key is to not let it sit around forever and ever setting in.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a good point about Dawn Power Wash. Dawn Power Wash is an amazing product. I know Lori, me, you, we all love it.
Yeah.
And we were talking about because this is what we talk about some of the different uses for it. And a stain remover came up, and it didn't even occur to me that Power Wash would be a good stain remover. But
Yeah,
after
I
we had
always
that
use it on my
conversation,
shoes.
yeah,
I use it on my shoes. It's a lot cleaner than, the Dawn liquid, which is fine if you have
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
And I prefer the clear power wash. I don't like the blue one.
I
I
do
can't
as
stand the
well.
smell.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the blue either. All right, here's a question from Blonde Bobby. My
Okay.
mother-in-law gave me a really nice washer and dryer set. What a lovely mother-in-law you have.
Mhm.
She told me I need to stuff it completely full. A few
Yeah.
months ago, after stuffing it full, it broke. Could that be the reason why
Yes.
it broke?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's all weighted and balanced, and no washing machine should be more than 75% full because, again, you have to allow the water and the detergent to be able to get through the clothes. So if it's stuffed full, we talked about weight.
yep,
And, the drum, is it spins fast,
mhm,
So, with that kind of weight, if there's, eh, a couple of pounds on one side that's heavier and the whole thing is overloaded anyways, it can't compensate for that. So, yes, but always it is not economical. It's not cheaper, it's not better for the environment to do less loads when you're stuffing it full because, again, your clothes aren't getting clean and you're putting your machine at risk. So, you're better
yeah,
off to do but again, it's also one article of clothing is not a good idea because clothes need clothes to rub against and create that friction. So, you wanna
yeah,
be anywhere from, let's say,
half to
3
3/4.
3 to 4 items up to 3/4, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Uh, Blonde Bobby, please take your advice from cleaning experts. Take the free washer dryer from your mother-in-law, but then take the laundry advice from the laundry experts because we will help you with that. And I'm sorry that happened to you. That sucks. I want to highlight we have a
I
couple new
feel like
Clean My
that's our
Space.
biggest issue.
What? Waiting the machines?
Is
Oh, the
unlearning
habits.
what our parents and our grandparents did because we
Yeah.
have different products and they work differently.
Yeah, we have different tools, we have different products, science, technology. There have been so many advances. You know what, Melissa? In like 20 years, we're not even going to be around because we're going to have robot overlords doing our laundry for
That's what I
us,
mean,
or
we're
maybe
that we're
we'll be doing the
people are gonna be
laundry for them.
laughing at us, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like it's going to be a weird
But
universe.
but
Okay,
that's yeah, go ahead. I'm
I
with
just
you.
wanted to point out we got a couple new Clean My Space community members,
Oh,
Chicago RH Tours and Kathleen Greer. Thank you so much for your support. Really, really appreciate that. Melissa, what were you going to say?
no, I was just gonna say, we switched over to synthetic detergents in the late '40s, kinda moving
Yeah,
forward. and the technology has changed. So,
Yeah.
when we talk about soap to detergent, soap needs like 3 types of energy to work, which is mechanical, and that's that scrubbing and heat, and the chemical, which is the soap, but we don't need those things anymore now that we have different detergents, so it's
Yeah.
just
And
hard. We have to
just
unlearn it.
Yeah, and just to state the difference for the folks who don't know. So soap, when we talk about laundry soap, it's talking about like soap derived from animal fat.
Yeah,
And when we talk
generally,
about
there were 2 ingredients, right? Like fat,
yeah,
yeah, was the main one,
yeah,
but
and then
now
like
it's
lye,
lots
but
of ingredients and
it's synthetic. So when it's a synthetic soap, it's called a detergent. That is something. So if you hear the use of the word soap versus detergent, now you'll kind of understand the difference or
and
why.
synthetic isn't always bad. I get a lot of people saying, "Well, why don't you just use natural?" And sometimes it's more, eco-friendly to use synthetic rather than rob
Yeah.
the earth of all of its resources.
Yeah, so we were actually sitting in on a session and they with P&G and they were talking about lavender and they said if we
Mhm,
used all natural lavender, here are some of the problems that we would encounter. Uh, Inconsistency with batches.
mhm.
They said you don't know what grower is using what and what sort of pollutants are making their way into the harvest. So they can't control for safety as much. If they can
And
create the synthetic scent of lavender and they have it
yeah.
consistent, and it's replicable and it's scalable, then that's great. They said if they had to use lavender for just one of their products, that they would wipe out the entire
And they wouldn't
planet.
have enough. They wouldn't even
That's
have enough,
right,
it would wipe the planet out of it, and it's funny
of
because
lavender.
speaking of lavender, I thought it was very interesting that, the scents in products are all according to what that area of people think it smells like.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, our
Yeah, we're like,
lavender
what
is very
lemon?
different, that P&G was doing a lavender, for another country, and it smelled like urine, and they love it, but if they smelt our lavender, they would think it was disgusting, so,
Right.
it's all about what everybody likes, but you can also when you're using synthetics, you can get things that you wouldn't normally be able to get in your area and in season and all of that stuff, so I just don't think it's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that I found really interesting. Bellrite just gifted 10 more memberships. Thank you so much. That is so generous. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
You are such a lovely supporter. Thank you so much. I want to ask a question from Carly now. Carly Strenny says, I could use some advice on washing bathing suits and towels after a long day of swimming.
Mhm. Um, okay, again, right away. It's
Yeah,
that isn't that the stinkiest thing when your kid's gone to somebody's place and then you find the bathing suit wrapped in the towel 2 days later and it smells so horrendous?
yeah.
So, it's washing that stuff, right away and, um, trying to get there's a lot of washes out there for the chlorine and that sort of thing for swimsuits, and usually I don't necessarily recommend products that are for very
Like
niche.
single use. Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, and,
I don't use them either.
they're
I
out
use regular
there,
detergent.
but if you're using a quality detergent,
Yeah.
which is able to get, deep within the fibers, which, I mean, I think, the Tide Hygienic is one of our favorites because, Melissa and I have seen it under a microscope. So, it's crazy how deep it gets, out of the fiber. There's a lot of detergents that we looked at even that were quality that you would look at it under the microscope and you could still see
It
some
doesn't
stuff, but
compare.
yeah, so you wanna use a quality detergent and, for towels, swimsuits, anything like that, just get them in the wash, straight away, and I know that a lot of people will, just dry their towels outside or just throw them in the dryer, and then eventually that stuff is just so built up. They're stinky and they're crusty and they're rough,
And
so
chlorine is really like whether it's chlorine
harsh.
or salt water, it's
Mhm,
really harsh on fabric. So
sure.
you really want to rinse it. And yeah, if you let it sit for too long, it's going to stink. So
Well, and if you
Totally.
get to it, the elastic in the swimsuits will last a lot longer if you're not letting all
Yeah,
that stuff sit on it. That's when you get
yeah.
that crackle, when you
Mhm,
pull the elastic because it's dried out, so you wanna get to it right
mhm,
away.
mhm. Yep. I wanna ask you a question from Bell Riot about hockey. How should I wash my hockey garments, not gear, to fully remove sweat and or smell? I use a bit of vinegar before my laundry detergent for my partner's garments, but I can't get it out sometimes. Mine turns out fine, LOL. I
Okay,
already know what you're gonna
I am
say.
a huge hockey I was a hockey mom. So, number 1, I washed all my gear in the washing machine. I never owned one of those gross hockey drying trees that everybody's got in their backyard or in their driveway, drying out all their most vile smelling things. I don't even know how that can come out of a
Wait, so how would
trailer.
you wash gloves and stuff like that?
In the washing machine, always,
Really? I feel like
everything.
that's not advised.
Now, gloves, chest protectors, I throw it all in. It is the sickest smelling stuff. You can never get the smell out of gloves. There's nothing more disgusting than hockey gloves. So, but now that we have rinse and refresh, I would certainly add that to it. In the past, I
Yeah,
would
I
just
would.
wash everything and let it dry or whatever. But
And
rinse
Belle, I
and
wouldn't
refresh.
even do the vinegar. It's not
No,
necessary with rinse.
I feel like vinegar is an alternative for softening, but it has to, and it's
Gotta go in at
like
the
at
right
a very
time. It's
low
finicky.
level. Yeah, but if I
Yeah,
had
it's
but
finicky.
again, even the vinegar goes into the fabric softener compartment, so if I'm deciding between low level and, like, optimum is the rinse and refresh, I would be washing it with rinse and refresh.
Yeah, me too. And that's what I would have advised. I would advise rinse. It is a game changer for smelly fabric. It's not even funny. If people haven't tried rinse, it's like if you
And
do anything this weekend, buy a bottle of rinse and refresh.
well, and that's it. It does seem expensive, but, because sometimes it's like, "Oh my, that's a lot," but I'm telling you, if you use it for, your athletic wear or your towels or, very specific things, it's so worth it, and then pair it with either a Tide, Persil, or a Kirkland detergent, and you're fine.
Yeah. Ariana Contreras has a question. What are your thoughts on high efficiency machines? I worry that my laundry isn't getting cleaned without being completely submerged in water like a top loader. Thanks for the
Mhm.
wonderful content.
Yeah, I think a lot of people this is all part of that unlearning, right? The technology is much different. I mean, we've moved from machines that had that center agitator and when people go to no agitator, they think there's no way their clothes are getting clean. I need that plastic rubbing on them or they're never going to be clean. So it's just a matter of unlearning. The technology is there that between the detergent and the machine that mentally you think, "Oh, it needs to have a ton of water," but it doesn't. And, the machines, are so far advanced now that we don't need a ton of water. And that's the reason is that, the detergent companies and manufacturers of appliances have teamed up to say, "How do we make this work?" And it does. I'm I'm telling you, I my clothes never feel cleaner in a top loader when these people who are trying to even add more water than the top loader, this overload stuff. Detergent is formulated to work in the amount of water that's there. You don't,
Yeah,
but again, it's unlearning it. It is trying to wrap your head around how is that possible? Just like how is it possible that clothes get clean in cold water, right? It's you
yeah,
have to unlearn all that stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I love high efficiency front load machines. I think they get my
Mhm.
clothes perfectly clean,
Yep.
and they don't age your clothes as much as a top loader.
No.
Blonde Bobby has a question, another one. What is the best way, Melissa, to get rid of a lot of dog hair out of my bath mats before I wash them?
Yeah,
Barb and
and
Judy.
I know, and I always get this question too. And there's a lot of products out there that I've tried and they just don't work. Those rubber things I'm supposed to put in my and they stick to it doesn't. So what I always do, I know it sounds crazy, but I use a lint brush, number one, before I put anything into the wash. And
You do
sometimes
that, sorry, you do that for everything?
no, my dog stuff, like
Okay.
super hairy
Okay.
stuff,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So the dog bed. I take all the pillows out of it and I wash that quite often. So I lint brush it first. And then I usually toss it in the dryer for a bit to
Yeah.
get rid of the loose hair, and then I
Yep.
wash it. Now, 10 out of 10 times, even once I've washed it and dried it, there's still gonna be a bit of hair, it also depends on what kind of dog you have. But you need a lint brush again. And yeah, I use the sticky lint brushes because they work. I don't like the the other one, the metal one. I don't that's not for me. I use a sticky
Yep.
lint brush because it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish that there was something out there, but the little filters, the traps, the rubber circle things in whatever shape, they just don't work. I want them to
They
work,
don't.
but they don't. I've tested them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Put it in the dryer for about 10 minutes. You can actually put Melissa, I know you're not a fan necessarily, but you can put a bounce sheet in the dryer with it. Like they say that that really helps eliminate some of the pet hair. Melissa and I both don't use dryer sheets, but it's an option. It's something you can
Yeah, I
try.
mean, what the
Um,
dryer sheet actually does when you put it in the dryer sheet to eliminate it puts a coating on something so that moving forward, the hair won't necessarily stick to it as easily, but it doesn't actually pull everything off, but it will,
create
stop.
slip.
It does, yeah. So, I mean, that'll help you in the long run. I mean, look, if you're gonna do that, just don't use a dryer sheet in every single load,
Yeah.
especially if you have a new dryer with sensors because it's gonna
Yeah.
ruin your machine.
Yeah. You heard that from Melissa Pateras. Okay. Libby Chapman, the hose for my dryer that vents outside has not been cleaned in 10 years. How can I clean it?
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's like for
that
people who
has to
don't
be
know, that's like
done.
the elephant trunk looking hose.
Yeah, so there's a few things you can do. I mean, I don't know what your setup is. If you first of all, you should be deep cleaning your dryer, which is everything except that hose, regularly, right? But that hose should be done annually. And you can either get a professional to do it, number 1, super easy. Or depending on the setup, if you're able to access that let's call it a pipe from the back of your dryer, you could disconnect it from your dryer. And something as simple as if you have a leaf blower, you can stick it into that pipe and blow it, and everything's going to blow out onto your driveway or wherever your vent is. Now, it does depend on your system because if you've got a lot of curves and turns and ups and downs, you may need a professional who's going to do both that and sort of a snake that travels through and pushes everything out. But that you just want to be super careful because that's a fire hazard. So if you've got a flexible pipe, which I hope you don't, you can usually do it by yourself. But if you've got a hard pipe, again, you're probably going to need a professional unless you have the tools to do it. But be doing that regularly, please. I mean, people get all this duct cleaning nonsense, but that's the most important. Who cares about your ducks? Seriously, that's not a you're not getting much out when you're getting your ducks cleaned, but your dryer is huge. It's a huge important piece because it's a fire hazard.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for the PSA. It is
My
absolutely
dad
true.
my dad was the district chief of Toronto Fire for 35 years, and the amount of
Oh,
fires he attended because people didn't empty their lint traps and didn't clean their dryers was just crazy. So I grew up, it was a very important piece of home maintenance from him. So yeah, make sure you get to that.
I didn't know that about your origin story, but that explains why you are obsessive about cleaning your dryer.
Yeah, the
That really
dryer,
does.
knowing where your fire extinguisher is, how to use it, that sort of stuff. Because, yeah, I grew up a lot of times my dad would come home and then it would be he had been to a fire for something, and then we'd all have to sit down and,
Hear the story.
make sure we didn't do that.
You should do some TikToks about that. That's actually a very interesting subject.
One time, my dad came to school and pulled me out of class because we, as young kids, we set up a tent in our backyard, and just a couple of girls, we would just sleep in the tent, because you're looking for a bit of freedom and you're still in the sleepover age. And my dad found a candle in the tent, and he went to
Oh boy.
school and pulled me out of school to talk to me about that. So yeah, I mean, he was pretty serious about fire safety. So.
Yeah, well, just It's a very grim topic, so I can understand why.
Mhm.
My dad sells insurance, also a very grim discussion, but we do not
Right,
need to get
that's a
into
very
that right now.
dangerous job as well.
Oh my god, like, talk about depressing. Anyway, Jerry1224 has a question. Tips for storing bulky winter clothes when they're not being worn. I don't have enough room in my drawers to keep everything in there.
My biggest tip is, funny enough, is cleaning it before you're putting it away for sort of a
Mhm.
long-term storage, and when I say long-term storage, I mean, a season, um, because, number 1, moths and bugs are attracted to. I know you don't wanna believe it, but sometimes there's food on your clothes even if you can't see it, and that's when you get your moth holes and all of your stuff like that. Plus, if you've put something away with a stain on it for the whole season, chances of being able to get it out is so slim, it's just a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
an
work.
old stain at that point, yeah.
Mhm. And, I do a few things, depending on what it is. Some coats, jackets do well folded. I don't fold um, too much down because I don't want it to crease and sort of,
Mhm,
do that sort of thing. But um, you know, there's lots of, what are they? The vacuum bags and stuff like that. I don't know how much space you're looking, but totes are completely fine. You could use vacuum bags, but for me, the main thing is that, you clean it before you put it away.
mhm. Yeah, and I will say, like, for any natural fiber like, for synthetics, I think vacuum bags are great,
Mhm.
but for something natural, like a down-filled, coat or a wool coat, that's something where you'd wanna be more mindful about what you store
Yeah,
it
you want
in,
it to
so
be
I would
breathable and
yeah, it's gotta be breathable, and down you can't crunch down because 'cause you'll flatten the feathers, so you really have to be careful with that,
similar to, sleeping bags. I think I had a really big video. Jennifer Garner was trying to roll this sleeping bag, so I stitched her and,
Oh,
um
oh, are
yeah.
we name dropping?
No, no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
and so I was like, "Hey, this is, that bag that you put your sleeping bag in is called a stuff bag, and the reason it's called a stuff bag is because 'cause you're not supposed to roll it and fold it, you're supposed to stuff it in, and it takes about 5 seconds." And all this nonsense of these people laying on the floor and trying to roll it, and the purpose of that is that it will create creases and, changes the R value, like insulation. It changes its ability to do its job, um, yeah, loosely folded or in terms of down and stuff like that is very loosely folded, clean, and you can even throw some of those odor absorber packs into
Yeah.
bins if there's any sort of moisture issues. But yeah, that's probably my best advice.
Is are you and Jennifer Garner, like, friends now?
We're pals. We go way back. Melissa, I've got
Way
so
back
many
to
celebrity friends, but
2024?
you're my most famous celebrity friend.
Oh, oh god, that makes me feel good. What a
Yeah.
great way to get into the weekend. Wow, thank you. Okay, so here's the deal. We are just at time, so that's awesome. If you want to get more cleaning information with tons of research and history and background and interesting stories about a father being a fire chief, um, please follow Melissa Dilks Pateras.
Oh, yeah, and here's my book,
Um,
and it's
and you
back
can pick
here.
up her book. And Melissa, why don't you just quickly describe the picture on the front of the book for everyone?
Okay, so it's
Because I do
called.
wanna be clear, you were
Yeah,
the first person to get into caulking.
yeah, it's called a
We've
dirty,
all seen
dirty
we've all
guide.
seen what's just gone
Well,
viral, but
that's the
yeah.
whole thing. It's called A Dirty Guide to a Clean Home, but the reason it's called dirty is because, I initially started on TikTok doing a lot of caulking because it was just, like, regular easy stuff you could do yourself around the house, and so I started to talk about my caulk a lot, and that joke is super funny unless they don't pronounce it that way. So in North America, that joke is really funny when I talk about my caulk and my balls, in the dryer, of course, and yeah, so I do a lot of innuendos, and a lot of the book has, that kinda stuff in it, from sweet stories about my grandmother and, funny stories about how I'm the 3rd child and my parents didn't really raise me, I raised myself, they were tired of parenting by me, and then some practical stuff, is also in there with some fun innuendos and cock jokes. Yeah, so
Yeah,
there you go,
and
that's my book.
and That's the thing, like, the flavor on on your account is just so funny, like, the innuendos are, like, amaze. I love them. Anyway, it was so good to do this with you, so that's where you can find Melissa. Of course, you can find us at Clean My Space. You can find our products at Makers Clean. We've got links in the description. Don't forget about the sale I was telling you about earlier, the Memorial Day sale. Spend $50, get a free, 5-pack of Makers Minis.
Oh,
Have a
wait,
great long weekend. What?
if people
What?
haven't tried Melissa's makeup purple towel
Oh,
things,
yeah,
they're
our
amazing.
luxury
I don't
face
know. I
cloths.
don't wear makeup, but
Yes.
my partner and my kids are addicted to them, so whatever the luxury face
Yeah.
cloths,
I've
they're amazing.
I've heard that there have been some family fights, some
Yeah,
infighting
yeah,
about
for
that.
sure.
Maybe I'll have to gift you some extra ones.
I'll have
Anyway,
to buy more, yeah.
yeah, all of you have a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in, Melissa. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for
and,
having me.
it was my pleasure, and we'll see you at the next live. Take good care,
Uh,
everyone.